Hey now, welcome back to The Exchange with KB. This is your host, Kirill speaking. The Exchange with KB is where you get to know interesting people and their thoughts on entrepreneurship, building and scaling businesses, success and failure, and much, much more. If you enjoyed this episode, go to my website, KirillBensonoff.com, and sign up for occasional updates. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Chrissa McFarlane to the show. She's the founder and CEO of Patientory, a digital health startup based in Atlanta. Hey, Chrissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Super excited talking to you. So you've got quite a story there. I was looking at your background. So from the Bronx, it looks like to the blockchain. Am I correct?
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. From the Bronx to the blockchain.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I was really amazed. You've accomplished quite a lot. It looks like you've done a number of different things. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. Can you give us an overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, I grew up in the Bronx. At a young age, was always interested in the application of science, mathematics, and medicine. I was actually, thinking I was going to end up in the health industry as a physician. But a small part of me always wanted to go in the actual business applications of healthcare and how to actually improve that. So, did business school, did a couple years of health technology consultant, then miraculously found myself in the digital healthcare startup world back in 2014. As you know, it's a pretty much new industry for healthcare that's conservative, very slow to innovation. And then just researching the problems in the industry in healthcare. Started Patientory back in 2015, and the rest is history.
So what do you think is, I know healthcare is such a vast field. What is the thing that you're trying to address? What's most broken in your opinion?
The biggest, everyone knows healthcare is broken. The biggest piece of it is consumable data. And that's not only in reference to the patient or the provider, but it's really how, each day as an individual, you're generating data, you're creating data. So how can we effectively and accurately use the information about ourselves to whether we're predicting, diseases that we may be susceptible to, or we're using that information to maximize our health on a daily basis. And I think data is very underutilized in the healthcare space.
So is Patientory trying to be like the EHR, the electronic health record for humans, for individuals, or is it something else?
I think it's something else. I think it's definitely an evolution of the EHR. We have thousands of EHR vendors that are currently on the market, with the big four having like 80% of that total addressable market. And if you talk to physicians, it's challenging to work with it. As we see, the EHR wasn't actually meant to assist in diagnoses or, the healthcare workflow of a physician and how they treat their patients. So going back to that data, providing a platform. EHR is more about practice management, data collection, but now it's looking at the evolution of that and how we can actually utilize this data with a lot of these emerging technologies. So, we're focused on blockchain, we're focused on AI and machine learning to actually enhance that care experience that the providers currently do for their patients.
Sure. It makes sense. And I'm going to take a deep dive into Patientory, the under the hood application a little bit, but maybe we could take a quick step back. What made you look at blockchain or what did you think about when you're coming up with the idea for Patientory? Did you know it was going to be blockchain based immediately, or what what did you think about when you thought of Patientory and the blockchain?
Yeah. So when I first started to think about the company, I put my researcher science hat on. And even in business, any, entrepreneur would tell you, you have to focus on the problem first, right? So you don't come up with a business and try to make money if you're not, addressing a problem or, helping consumers in some way. You just don't have value. So the biggest problem was, how can we better empower patients, which is currently not existent right now. Patients go have an annual physical once a year, and they spend about 15 minutes with their providers, and that's it, until the next year. So it's like, how can we create a solution with technology that will fill in the gaps between, the time they see their physicians, and 12 months later, so that they're always in compliance with their care plan. So with starting Patientory, I started out with the problem, and then the researcher in me decided to look at technologies, that were budding in the space. Blockchain at the time, we've seen Bitcoin, but there was no industry applications. I think Ethereum at the time had just launched their token sale. So there was really no thought for industry applications for blockchain, much less in the healthcare space. So blockchain was definitely on the list because I know it was, just looking at technologies in there. And then as I continued to do more R&D on the company and the project, it became more evident that, blockchain was going to be the way to go.
Mm-hmm. How did you get introduced to the blockchain? Were you like an early Bitcoin investor, or how did you get introduced in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, in New York, you kind of hear everything, that's happening, especially on the streets. So I think it was in passing. I probably read something somewhere. And I didn't invest. I was not one of the early Bitcoin investors.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did, just going through research, I came upon it and stumbled upon it.
Gotcha. And what do you think about, what's the current state? I mean, do you think about the state of the industry at all, or do you just kind of look at blockchain as a layer for what your application needs specifically?
Yeah, the way our company approaches blockchain, especially as a service, our for-profit company, because we're split into two entities. One is more of a nonprofit, where we provide our open source PTOY blockchain code to companies, and the other one is where we're actually building services to address these healthcare problems. And in that, blockchain is definitely not, the selling point, because we're helping businesses solve problems. But we definitely see it as that foundational layer to what we want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. And do you see like the healthcare industry? I mean, I know that, and things are rapidly evolving in the blockchain industry in general. But if we think about Bitcoin a few years back, I mean, a lot of people who have heard of it, it wasn't really mainstream, but a lot of people who have heard of it, who were in some of the more legacy industries, I guess, would think or would tell me that Bitcoin was something that criminals used, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that, who needs privacy when, we have all these other great tools already, and the only people who are trying to use Bitcoin are the ones trying to hide stuff. Then it kind of evolved, and now blockchain, I feel like people look at as a great, distributed ledger, database, whatever, for doing various things that applications that utilize it need to do. How do you think that the healthcare industry specifically, how do they view the blockchain in the general space today?
Well, we are an emerging topic in the space. I've talked to, CEOs from large health systems like Geisinger, talk with, CIOs of Kaiser, and it's like they know that this is the future of healthcare. Healthcare is different because it has to go through a series of, implementations, due diligence, adoption before we actually get to commercialization. I mean, because you're dealing with people's lives. So any mistake that's done there, even as in regards to security, a hospital can go out of business just looking at the fines,
Right.
from CMS and HHS. So while it is, pretty early right now in the industry, we do see a lot of pilots, resurfacing to the top. And a lot of that is going to spur a lot of these case studies and success stories that we can use to further the adoption. A lot of the regulators can use it to start to create laws and policies and standards for the adoption of blockchain in the industry.
But do you see the big healthcare companies starting to talk about it, or are they kind of at the next step where they're investing and doing pilots and proof of concepts and things like that?
Yeah, I think we have two groups right now in the space. We have the groups that probably had started investing in it in late 2016, 2017, did a couple of research projects around it and now are trying to implement pilot studies. So they're more or less, the early adopters of it. They haven't done anything commercially yet, but they're working towards commercialization. And then we have the other group where it's like, they're attending the conferences, they're joining work groups, and they're taking more of a passive approach to adoption as they want to see, more of the successes and what that means for their organization's future.
Gotcha. And so the trend is positive, would you say, in terms of adoption?
Yeah. I think if we liken it to, the biggest adoption in the healthcare industry was the electronic medical record. It took, you can roughly say, a little over 15 years. But we didn't see that mass adoption until, our governments came down and say, you have to implement an EMR by this date or you're going to get fined. We're incentivizing you to do this. So back in 2008, 2007, some doctors' offices were still writing down medical record information, but it wasn't until, especially the smaller clinics, wasn't until, Obama passed that regulation, we started to really see people ramp up in getting that EMR adopted across the board.
Yeah, I've had some exposure to EMRs, both as a consumer and a little bit on the support side. My previous company was involved in supporting some of these implementations. And, doctors, I remember back in those times, doctors weren't necessarily excited about the technology. They didn't want to get on board.
They did not.
Right.
And they still aren't.
and it was that stick in the carrot, right, where the incentive or the possibility of a fine down the road that really kind of made the move forward. And now if I go to a healthcare facility, it's almost, for me, I live in the Boston area, so I do think that perhaps adoption has been a little bit faster here than potentially some other areas of the country. But if I go to a healthcare facility personally, it's really hard for me to imagine a doctor coming in and talk to me with a pen and paper, right? I can't imagine them doing their work that way. Is that how you think as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are easier ways to do it. And I think it's just getting them over that curve to be able to be comfortable in adopting it. So we see now even medical education, medical schools, they're training their physicians in residency, in medical schools to work with technology. As that's, it's the future of their clinical training.
Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely the right move. I think it's that younger generation that's going to almost demand it when they go into the workforce, if not already.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Patientory, the application a little bit. So I'm going to read, just the blurb that you have on your website, and then I'd like to hear from you in terms of what the application does, what the use cases are, what the value added is. So on the website, it says we connect doctors, care providers, and consumers all with a single secure platform working together to provide the best care. That's just, that's one of the things that you have there. So, I mean, that kind of describes it nicely for me, but I'd love it in your own words as well.
Yeah, I try to, and we have so many versions of this. It's like, how can we really take this complex system and simplify it to the market, right? It's all about keeping it simple. But essentially what we're doing is, we're empowering end users who use healthcare information and give them actionable insights to healthcare data on one single platform. And that's essentially, our value proposition with Patientory.
So there's an app that you could download on your phone. Is there also a web-based application as well, or how does it actually function?
Yeah, so where our business model is actually we sell to enterprise, so we're B2B, and we also provide a consumer application. So we're B2B to C model, which is more of the complex models out there because we're dealing with both hospital, healthcare organizations, and the patients are like consumers. So the patients use a free downloadable app where we're aggregating data, which is not only pertinent to their medical records information, but we're taking it a next step further. If you hear in the industry, a lot of people are tuned in social determinants of health, because we know that your medical information is not the sole indicator of your health, but it's also things like your diet, where you live, that affects the overall health of a person. So we also integrate with IoT devices, fitness devices, and we're tracking and collecting all of that data into this one location. And then on enterprise, it's a web portal, web-based solution where we're able to gather that information and provide them with insights to better manage their clinical and financial workflows. So we're the next stage of what a population health management solution will be in the 21st century, and the evolution of basically population health management.
Sounds great. Sounds awesome. And where does the token come in? Because you guys also have the PTOY token.
Yes. So the token is more of a store of value on the platform. So smart contracts are established with the token, and it's also a value of storage. So most people right now, they're thinking about blockchain in the form of more of an immutable ledger for tracking information. Our blockchain hybrid system is more of a distributed and decentralized storage mechanism for healthcare data, which is regulated by the token for a storage mechanism.
Gotcha. So I want to talk about the token a little bit, because from what I understand, when you guys started out, you guys raised some, quote unquote, traditional money, traditional rounds, initially seed or pre-seed, and then you guys went to do a crowd sale, an ICO. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Gotcha.
So we did a traditional round in, we had friends and family, we had angels, and we did the accelerator.
Okay. And then what was the sort of decision process behind thinking about an ICO, and did you think that was the right thing to do or not, looking back on it?
Looking back, I was pretty hesitant. This was like late 2016. I was like, it's either we're going to finish our seed round, or we're going to do this crowd sale. Before, it wasn't even called an ICO. But I had an advisor who had done one before, and it was like the thing in the space. As you were coming into the space, we're a healthcare team, as we're coming into this blockchain space and getting to know the ecosystem. I was always against like crowdfunding. But we decided to do a white paper and then, go through that process. At the time, we didn't really have much to lose. Either we finished this seed round, or, early 2017, let's do this. It sounds awesome, and it gives us an opportunity to actually jumpstart the blockchain, which was necessary at the time for completing our app. And what we were selling to the hospitals. Looking back, I still have no idea why we decided to do that, but it definitely has given us, and solidified us as, one of the blockchain healthcare players in the space, and we've been able to do a lot of thought leadership in this space, and it's just opened up so many doors to so many more opportunities for the company.
Right. So
partnerships, collaborations, etc.
So at its core, and you guys were pretty early as far as doing an ICO.
Yes.
As far as that goes. So I think things were and are still continuing to rapidly evolve as to thinking of what these ICOs actually are and aren't.
Exactly.
But one thing that they are for sure, in my opinion, is it provides for the ability to get your tokens out to the masses? Was that one of the core reasons?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And we had people from all over the world, from different countries. That's why like really brought that attention to the project. We had people emailing us saying in like Australia, you know, my wife is, you know, she suffers from a chronic illness, and she has so much data. I had someone email me on Saturday. It's like, yeah, I have my spouse. We ended up printing out 400 pages of data that we're going to send to the hospital Monday morning, just so she can receive care. So I'm like, this is pretty serious, you know, and there are people out there that would definitely benefit from the innovation.
Definitely. What do you think about, you know, how has the crowdfunding / ICO space evolved since you guys did your crowd sale, and how do you see it evolving in the future? Do you see it having a place with blockchain companies, or do you see it kind of, you know, fizzling out as it potentially has been this year, at least, and some of the last year?
Yeah, so we were pretty ahead of the whole, you know, Bitcoin ICO bull run that happened later in 2017. We definitely did not expect that. So we were coming in a pretty, you know, conservative, you know, small space. So we didn't know what to expect once we finalized our sale late May of 2017. So we've been through the ups and downs. From what I see with, you know, the new STOs, as they're calling them, it just seems as more of a traditional crowd fund where you're giving up equity. It doesn't seem to have the same connotations as how tokens are used in terms of utility on a platform. Moving forward, I think it's going to mirror a lot more of crowdfunding mechanisms and instruments that we see today. That was before actual cryptocurrency issued securities and tokens. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how it blew up and then it kind of contracted in that way as we brought in more regulators.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely starting to look pretty much the same as other crowdfunding, have been, at least in the United States. But do you think that potentially globally it's going to have a role to play in raising funds, or do you think it's kind of going to follow what the U.S. is doing?
I mean, we can say the U.S. has been pretty much of a big brother everywhere, right? A lot of countries I hear you say, it's not regulated by SEC. We should do it this way because of SEC.
Right. Unfortunately, I mean, people in other countries have to think about what the SEC is doing in the U.S. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, but do you see other countries kind of following suit? I mean, we still have kind of the early adopter countries like Switzerland, Estonia, and some others, right, that are fairly open to the concept of utility token. And I believe in the U.S., I mean, there might be some states that are kind of taking a proactive approach, like Wyoming, and I've been reading about some other states lately that are kind of jumping on the utility token bandwagon. They're enabling local companies in their own state. Of course, they have no federal jurisdiction, but in their own state, they're creating this new utility token class and enabling companies to raise. Do you think that globally we're going to see kind of the utility token trend, or will it be a mixed bag with securities in some places and utilities in others as far as tokens go?
I think it's definitely going to be a mixed bag. Especially as I think they're still in the process of figuring it all out. So we were going to see variations, and of course stipulations down the line.
Do you think that are there other companies in the healthcare space? I'm sure there are. They're utilizing blockchain, and are there others that are kind of in a similar situation where they've issued tokens, whether through an ICO or whatever other vehicle that you know of, or are companies sort of going around the token route these days?
I've seen a mix. I've had companies come to me and want advice. I know a company that's a healthcare company that's issuing an STO right now, in the US, and their legal advice was, well, we can't do that ICO, that's no longer, valid.
Right.
And then I've seen other companies that are US based, but they go out of the country and decide to set up tokens and issue tokens that way.
Gotcha. But blockchain, it sounds like, is really catching on as far as adoption in the healthcare scene.
It is. And I've seen companies that say, tokens, they don't mean anything in healthcare, and they just go straight to blockchain.
Yeah. When you talk to either potential customers, partners, et cetera, do you feel that the token that you guys have out there is a detriment in any way to what they're trying to achieve, or raises any concerns when you talk to them?
I think in healthcare, again, because they're still pretty early towards the innovation, they're really dealing with blockchain, and they haven't really addressed the aspects of tokens. And if you look from company to company, the token represents different things.
Right.
With our token, in order to use our blockchain, it provides consensus. It provides a lot of the built-in logic on the blockchain. So it's like, essentially, you're going to have to use it once or, at some point in that implementation process.
Right.
But because there's such this stigma that exists around cryptocurrencies, like you mentioned earlier, it's used by criminals. It's too volatile. Because healthcare is so conservative, they take this backseat approach when it comes to dealing with and talking about the tokens.
Sure. So your platform is live. I see an iOS app. Is there an Android one coming out soon?
Yes, we are working on the final developments to release the Android version. We have a demo for the web portal, and we're building that out through, regarding our roadmap, the functionalities and the features for our
Cool.
pilots.
Awesome. So I'll look for the Android version when it comes out.
Okay.
Great. So let's do a quick lightning round, if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
And now the lightning round. Favorite blockchain company, other than Patientory, of course.
Other than Patientory. Oh, that's a hard question. Ethereum.
A favorite company, again, other than Patientory, revolutionizing healthcare today.
I really love what Amazon is doing.
Cool.
In their healthcare initiative.
Most difficult thing about running your own business?
It's always about the people. Finding the right people at the right time is pretty much the difficult part of running a business.
Most exciting topic in blockchain today?
Does it have to be serious? Can it be I love
it
how
could be anything.
A lot of these.
it could be Baba Booey,
I love how these we see, because of the current bear market in crypto, how the changes that's going on with all these companies. We have that Quadriga exchange, scandal. So it's pretty interesting to just see the developments and the interesting occurrences that happen in the space as it gets bigger.
Well, Chris, it's been awesome talking to you. I'm looking forward to seeing your product, your company mature. And it was great talking to you, and we'll put up some links on our website.
Thank you for having me again, Kirill.
Thanks.
It's great speaking with you.